Good morning and welcome into the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza. With me, as always, Alex Napoles. We've got Parker pushing the buttons behind the glass. Welcome back, Parker. It's been a little bit. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for making us a part of your Saturday morning Memorial weekend. Hope you have fun plans. Alex, I know you had a crazy week.
Busy week, man. Busy week. Soccer championships have wrapped up. They're in the books. The season, 2024-2025 season is over. And we got some state championships that were crowned earlier this week, man. It was fun.
Shout out to...
6A was American Fork. They went back-to-back. 5A Alta took it off a wonderful free kick from about 40 yards out. It was incredible.
Wow.
They took down the back-to-back defending champions in the Wasatch Wasps. And then in 4A, it was taken by Crimson Cliffs.
Nice.
In an all St. George final.
Well, way to go. Yeah. Good job. We enjoyed your coverage for KSLSports.com and KSL Rewind. Saw some highlights on there. So go check it out. Our guy Alex does a great job.
Thanks,
on
man.
The call. Let's see. I'm assuming that was a highlight of your week?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it pretty much shook up all my week. And so I didn't
Right.
really, I didn't really get to do much outside of that. It's a lot of games, man. It's a lot of games in a short little bit of in a short span. But that has to be the highlight, just because that's basically what I did all week. But it's always fun being out there calling soccer. It's fun being out there calling just high school sports in general. I feel very, very lucky that I get to do it every season and every year, along with football, along with basketball, and of course girls and boys soccer. And so it's fun, man. I enjoy it and I love it.
And those games were played out at the RSL training facility in Harriman, right?
The semifinals, yes. Those ones
Okay.
were out in the training facility
Monday,
out in
Tuesday.
Harriman, but it's the Monday, Tuesday games, and then the championships were held at the actual America First Field in Sandy.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool.
I think it's awesome that they let the kids, play at the professional stadium. You just walk out there, you see the pristine green grass, and
Yeah.
have the student sections roll up. Man, it's always a good time.
Oh, I bet. Parker, you got a highlight?
I mean, nothing like too terribly special, but I've been getting back into inline skating.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something that I did a lot as a kid, and I have a friend who wanted to get into it, and so he bought some skates and has never really skated before, and I've skated a bunch. I got back into it, and we just went to the park and just skated around. I'm kind of getting him acclimated to doing it, and getting him better at the fundamentals, and being courageous enough to go up and down hills and stuff like that. So it's fun kind of teaching him and letting him grow alongside and getting back into it. So that not super exciting, but that was a fun part of my week.
That's awesome, man.
I don't think that's something that I could do. I don't
I
have
believe
the
in
balance.
you, Christian. I believe you
My
could.
balance is terrible.
It's difficult and you will fall a lot.
Yeah.
But at a certain point you stop falling so much, and then you stop falling almost entirely.
It's like riding a bike, man.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Okay, what's the difference between rollerblading and inline skating?
They're the same thing.
Okay.
So rollerblade is kind of like Kleenex in that it is a brand.
Oh, it's a brand, okay.
Yeah, it's a brand of thing that everybody just kind of associates with
Right.
it. But inline skating
Is the actual sport.
that, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, cool. Yeah, I went ice skating a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't fall, so that's a good thing.
Very similar. Very similar skill sets. If you can ice skate, you can probably, because they're inline,
Yeah.
you can probably go from one to the other.
Well, we'll see. I'll let you know if I ever tried it out. I would definitely need these. I'm looking at this girl. She's got the knee pads and the helmet and the elbow pads. I would definitely need all that. So, well, cool. That's awesome. And it's great time of the year. Really nice weather outside. So I'm sure that's fun. So as far as for myself, my old college roommate was back in town last night. Got to hang out with him and a couple other friends from college. We all reunited. Got to see each other. I haven't seen them in a couple years, so that would be my highlight of the week. It was a fun week.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And hey, thanks for filling in for me this week, man.
Yeah, no, and it's been a long time since I filled in on the JJ and Alex show, so it was good to be with them, and we had a lot of fun.
Good, man. They said they had fun too.
Good.
Despite a couple of hiccups, we'll talk about it, but they said you did good.
Good. All right, let's start the show off. Obviously, got to start with the biggest story of the week. And unfortunately, this is one of those things that we have to talk about no matter how much we don't want to talk about it. But as far as scandals go, I would say this is probably one of the biggest local in-state stories.
I would agree.
Over the last, I don't know how long, at least 20 years, right?
At least since I've been in this building, for sure.
Couple years?
Yeah.
Me too. In case you haven't heard, BYU quarterback Jake Retzlaff has been accused of sexual assault in a civil lawsuit. This came out on Wednesday is when it came down the pipe. Let's see, Jane Doe AG as the plaintiff released a statement. Essentially, the interaction allegedly occurred in November of 2023. And then, so she released the lawsuit, came out, and then Provo Police Department released their statement, and Jake Retzlaff's attorney released a statement. And that's pretty much all we have right now. We just have the initial lawsuit and the statements. And there's nothing else really outside of that to go off of.
Yeah.
One thing that's kind of important to note is that this is a civil lawsuit instead of a criminal case. So as far as what that kind of means, we're going to hear from a legal expert, a legal analyst.
Someone who knows a lot more than us.
Someone who knows a lot more than us. Somebody who has been dealing with this stuff in the state of Utah for over 40 years. His name is Greg Skordas. He joined Hans and Scotty on Thursday. Scotty was out, so it was really just Hans. But he, again, legal analyst for KSL, actually. Now he has a show on KSL News Radio. And so he joined Hans on Thursday to talk about everything. He goes through all the details, kind of the next steps, the potential timeline, and just what this means for Jake Retzlaff, and then, what's going to come next. So this is Greg Skordas with Hans Olsen on Thursday.
It's Greg Skordas here in studio with us. He is going to be starting a new show on KSL.
Yeah, we're starting Inside
9th.
Sources June 9th, taking over for Dave Nujanovic, and I'm going to be working with Holly Richardson, the 9 to 12 slot, starting in a couple weeks.
Well, Greg, I mean, this is nothing new to you. You've done some media. So.
Yeah, I've done quite a bit. It's been fun to be on the same team as Hans Olsen.
Yeah, that's the key, right?
Yeah,
I mean, we all get in this foxhole together.
That's right.
Try to fight through some of these stories, and you were the first name that came to my mind, and big thanks to Lloyd. He did a fantastic job of tracking you down. He had to go through 4 or 5 different people to get to you because you're an important person.
Well, I'm here now, so
yeah.
I'm captive now.
We've got you, and excited to kind of jump into this case with you because I am not familiar with the legalities. Very familiar with sports, but the legalities really get murky for me. And I want to start with this. Why civil and not legal when talking about this case coming down on Jake Retzlaff?
That's a good question. In fact, I asked the same thing. Why isn't this being prosecuted criminally? And if you read the civil lawsuit, you can see that the alleged victim here, and this is the case against Jake Retzlaff, did at least contact initially the Provo Police Department, and there was some attempt to take this criminally. You would always expect, Hans, a victim in a case like this to pursue it criminally first. So I'm assuming, just reading between the lines, because this is alleged to have occurred 18 months ago, that the prosecutors, the Utah County Attorney's Office, decided not to charge the case criminally, and so this is now her only remedy.
Why would they decide not to pursue?
It looks just, even from her own statements here in this complaint, and I'm reading the civil complaint, she was reluctant to come forward. She was reluctant to disclose the name of the supposed perpetrator. There's probably not a lot of evidence given that time delay, and I just assume that the Utah County Attorney's Office and the Provo Police Department, both of which, Hans, are pretty aggressive. They're not ones to just walk away from a case because it involves a high-profile person, that they decided they couldn't prevail, that there wasn't enough evidence to prevail in this case. So you look at the forensic evidence. You look at when you have a sex case, it's let's face it, it's a he said, she said. So to corroborate what she said, you would want some forensic evidence, DNA, signs of bruising, signs of injury, signs of something like that. And given the time between the alleged incident and the report, there may not have been much evidence. And I just assumed that they just didn't have enough case to charge it criminally. Now, the civil case it has a little bit less of a standard. If you sue someone civilly, you have to prove your case by what we call a preponderance of the evidence. In other words, you have a better case than the other side. But in a criminal case, the standard of proof is much higher. We call it proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So a prosecutor has to say, I have to be 95% sure I'm going to win this case before they can file it. Whereas a civil attorney is going to look at it and say, I think I have a pretty good case. I think I have a better than average case.
Are civil cases handled in front of a jury?
They can be, and in this case, they did request a jury. So that's a good question. It's like a criminal case because they have the right. In this case, there was a jury demanded, and it would be a jury of 8. In criminal cases, they have to be unanimous. Civil cases, I think it's like 2/3, so you need 6 out of the 8, something like that. Ultimately, a judge oversees the case, but in both cases, you would have a right to a jury trial.
So just because they requested it, does that mean they will get it, or is there some processes of making that decision?
The request is enough. They can always say we don't want a jury trial. But in a case like this, just from my experience, the money, if you're looking at a money case, you're going to get more from a jury than from a judge who's going to look at it very analytically, where a jury can be more upset or more angry at the situation, or one way or the other. But you're not going to get a $1 million verdict. Not that I'm saying this case is worth $1 million by any means, from a judge, as likely as you are from a jury who could be more impassioned from what they're hearing.
So at this point, the entire point of the civil case is to receive money.
Period. That's all it's about. Yeah, this is a civil suit. They've alleged several causes of action, assault, battery, those type of things. But ultimately, it's to collect money and nothing more.
How long typically does a civil case like this take to activate, pursue, and close?
Okay, so it's activated now. It was filed yesterday. They filed an amended complaint today, and I was sort of comparing them, and I can't see the difference, but there's something they filed differently. I don't even think Retzlaff's been served yet as attorney. So we're in the very early stages, Hans. And a case like this, to get to trial before it'll see a jury, probably not even in 2026. You're probably thinking of 18 to 24 months. A criminal case, they move on a faster track because the Constitution has that whole speedy trial thing. We don't have that in civil cases. And in criminal cases, it's because a person might be in jail. There's no reason to wait 2 years. But criminal cases always trump civil cases when you're in court and there's judges are trying to set trials. So a civil case is going to be not a low priority, but a lower priority in terms of getting to trial than a criminal case.
Now, one of the higher profile cases that I've ever heard of a legal trial and then a civil trial was O.J. Simpson.
Exactly.
And it is possible to lose a legal trial and win a civil because that's exactly what happened in O.J.'s case.
And it's exactly for the reason we talked about a minute ago, because the standard of proof in the criminal case is so high, the jury couldn't reach it. But they didn't have to get that much evidence in a civil case to win. You know what I mean? So in a criminal case, man, you have to have the unanimous jury find there's no doubt that this occurred. In a civil case, hey, we'll take 2/3 and did it more likely than not occur. Does that make sense?
That does.
So it's a lower standard of proof. That's why you could win one and not the other.
Okay, so we saw O.J. with a legal first and then a civil.
Right.
How often do you see a civil and then a legal?
Rarely. And in this case, just specifically talking about this case, in as much as it's alleged to have occurred, I think in November of 23.
That's correct.
You would think if they were going to file the criminal end of it, they would have done so by now. This state's clearly had enough time and evidence and wherewithal to pursue it criminally. My guess is the fact that they haven't means that they probably won't. But they still could. They still could. It would just seem that that's unlikely.
So, Greg, what are the chances? By the way, Greg Skordas in with us. Excited to have him here. Did you say 43 years in practicing?
Longer than you've been born, probably. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
I've been a lawyer for a long time.
I was just starting life.
There you
at
go.
that point, but that's incredible. Congratulations to you for a very long and successful career. And I know that you've probably had many cases like this on your desk over those years. So
yeah.
It's great to get your insight, and so excited for you to start your new show on KSL June 9th. You're going to be hearing from Greg Skordas, and I'm excited about that. you and I talked a little bit about this. What are the chances that this filing that came down yesterday caught Jake Retzlaff, Kalani Sitake, and BYU flat-footed?
0%.
Okay.
I would assume that a good civil lawyer, and I don't know these lawyers that are representing the victim in this case, the alleged victim, would have reached out to at least Retzlaff and said, hey, we've got this case. We're coming down the pike. Do you want to settle? Do you want to talk to us? Do you want to try to resolve it? So that day's probably long since passed. And I would also assume that because the Provo Police Department investigated it, that there had to be some level of referral to the Title IX people at BYU, which would have triggered a call to the coach. So I assume that nobody was caught flat-footed. They may have been disappointed that it ultimately was filed, thinking maybe it wouldn't be, but I think people were probably on the guard for it.
So I also, just reading through the report, I see that there were some accusations of the Provo Police Department giving advice on how she should potentially proceed. How much trouble could they potentially be in this civil situation?
Let me just say this. I have practiced for 43 years, and I've worked with the Provo Police Department, both as a prosecutor at Salt Lake County and as a defense attorney, so I've been on the opposite side of them. I don't believe that they would have treated it the way that's being articulated here. I don't believe that the Provo Police Department said, hey, this is you're never going to get anywhere and there's no justice. I think their words were really, I mean, I haven't answered your question and I apologize. I just find that hard to believe. So I don't think the Provo Police Department's going to be in trouble. I think they investigated it, but based on the allegations that she's raising in her complaint, there's going to be an internal investigation and to determine what level of care they did give her, what level of investigation they gave this case. But Provo Police Department's pretty aggressive. They don't walk away from a case because it has something to do with the BYU football program or something like that. I just don't find that to be credible. But again, those are allegations. We'll let it sort out.
And they did announce the attorney representing Retzlaff is Mark Bout. I don't know if you know Mark, but he did make some initial statements saying he is a nice young man. He's also factually innocent, and we look forward to proving that innocence. Good opening comments from an attorney?
I've used it myself many times. I mean, that's what you say. You know, and I use that in the context of a criminal case. When somebody's charged criminally, what do you say? Hey, I've got a good person here. We're looking forward to our day in court. We want a jury or judge to decide this case. So I think he's saying the right things right now, looking at the case and not wanting to disclose their entire evidence right now. There's no reason to do that. She's disclosed everything. This complaint is very, very forthcoming. It describes in very detailed statements about the alleged assault. Retzlaff and his attorney don't have to do that yet, and they're better not to do that. They're better to do exactly what you just described, which is to say, hey, we're looking forward to our day in court.
Greg, you're great. And it was fun to finally get on air with you.
Yeah, so I hope we get to do it again.
Appreciate your time. We will. As this thing proceeds, I'm sure that we'll have an opportunity to catch up with you quite a few times. And I don't know if you're ever going to bump into a sports story that you need a little bit of help.
I've done my share, yeah.
On KSL side of things, but if you need a little bit of sports insight, I'm always here for you.
Hey, it's an honor to be with you, by the way.
It's great to be on the same team.
Yeah.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it. There you go, Greg Skordas. His new show will be starting up on KSL June 9th. 43 years of practice. Incredible man. Appreciate his time.
There you go. As Hans was just saying, KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas giving his thoughts on this civil lawsuit against BYU quarterback Jake Retzlaff, because it is a huge story, and there are so many layers to this. And another thing that wasn't really touched on in that interview that kind of needs to be brought up is BYU's honor code adds a whole other wrinkle to this, right? Because if Jake Retzlaff, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's also the Title IX investigation that is imminent for Retzlaff.
So if Jake's defense is, we did have a relationship, but it was consensual, that is still against the honor code. So either way, it looks like Jake Retzlaff's time at BYU is done. But you're right, there's going to be a lot of investigations because there's accusation that Provo's police department didn't handle things the right way. So that's probably going to have an investigation there. There's probably going to be an investigation towards the Title IX department at BYU or BYU athletics.
Yes.
As you mentioned. I did think it was interesting because I'm trying to find BYU's statement. This was their initial statement. BYU became aware today that a civil lawsuit involving Jake Retzlaff had been filed this morning. The university takes any allegation very seriously, following all processes and guidelines mandated by Title IX. Due to federal and university privacy laws and practices for students, the university will not be able to provide additional comment. So, taking that and taking the way that Greg Skordas interpreted it, BYU's not really saying that they didn't know about this situation. Mm-hmm. They're saying they became aware that a civil lawsuit was filed, right? So I think that's why, the benefit of having somebody like Skordas to come on and explain things to Hans. It sounds like they were probably aware of this. It's just, Wednesday they were made aware of the civil lawsuit. So we'll see what happens as far as with the athletic department and the Title IX department. Another thing that's interesting is we just saw Utah State get in trouble for this last summer for not handling some of this Title IX stuff.
That's right.
A certain way. There are guidelines that need to be followed, certain steps that need to be taken. If you remember, long story short, with Utah State, basically Blake Anderson, former head coach for the Aggies, started doing kind of his own little investigation into things before he filed it properly with the Title IX office. And so that's why, the government had to get involved with Utah State.
That's right.
And so, I'm not saying that's exactly what happened at BYU. I'm just saying that is a possibility if things weren't followed correctly. And maybe they were. And we just don't know. And
that's just stuff that's going to have to come out with the Title IX investigation, with obviously what can come out of this civil trial, of everything that can come out as we get further along and as we find out more information. Right now, it's a lot of people are investigating, a lot of people are looking into things, and I feel like over the course of the next couple of weeks, we will have more information. It's hard to, just talk about this when there isn't too much to go off of, and we're just kind of waiting to see what falls, waiting to see what comes out and what happens about this whole situation, because it's this very serious allegation that Jake Retzlaff is under right now.
It is. It's a very serious thing, and again, pointing back to that Greg Skordas interview, civil lawsuits can take a very long time.
Right.
So that is one of the downsides to that, one of the differences between that and a criminal case. This could take over a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And I don't know how much more information is going to come out, depending on if they ever do end up doing a trial or things like that. I don't know how much evidence there seems to be, which again is probably why this is a civil case, not a criminal case. There might not be a ton of evidence to really go off of. So that kind of makes things hard as far as, we want to know the truth and we want to report on the truth and talk about the truth. And right now we have all the initial statements and allegations. So just putting all this information out there, you can take it at face value, really. And I just don't want people to be irresponsible with this information.
100%.
I know it's always hard, especially for, first off, it's hard for the alleged victim. If this is true, I mean, thoughts are with her, because I can't imagine how hard this is. And a lot of people are like, oh, why do you wait so long? Well, the truth is, because this is such a big news story, like, you don't want to be at the center of that. And I can't imagine what that feels like. And there's a reason, obviously, why she chose to remain anonymous, and that information might have to come out later on. So we'll see. But and you just never know with this kind of thing how to take it. But
right. And it sucks to, it sucks to kind of like bring up even like the football side of things and talk about what this means for BYU football, because there's something much more serious going on over here that we have to pay attention to. But Greg Skordas mentions that it can take 18 to 24 months before this even goes to trial. You have a football season that starts up in, 90 days?
Yeah.
It's, fall camp is right around the corner, and decisions are going to have to be made about his availability.
Right.
If this case is lingering over, can BYU allow Retzlaff to play?
My initial thought is no, and this is something that we'll spend time on all throughout summer,
absolutely.
right? Until BYU makes their decision. But my initial thought is no. I just think it would be a bad look. I think it would bring too much, negative attention to the program. You can't really have that around. And again, that's my initial thought with all the initial information that we have to go off of, and maybe things come out that make that decision a little easier one way or the other, but we'll see. And again, we'll spend some more time on this throughout the summer, but just to hit on it quickly, basically without Retzlaff, your options at quarterback for BYU are McKay Hillstead, who played a season at Utah State before he transferred there, sat out all of last season. Good player, but he's short. That's his knock. He's short and small, but he's a good player.
Yeah.
Good player. And then Tyson Bourget, who has been with the program a couple years, hasn't seen the field. And then they did just land Bear Bachmeier, as we mentioned a couple weeks ago in the transfer portal. True freshman. Just saw what Utah did last year with the true freshman at quarterback. I would be shocked if that's the route that BYU goes. So my initial thought right off the bat with just a couple days to think about it is McKay Hillstead, most experienced guy in the room. I liked him at Utah State. But again, because of his size, he suffered some injuries. But again, he was playing as a true freshman for the Aggies as well. So hopefully having some time and experience with the BYU program last year to just sit back and learn and acclimate to Big 12 football. Maybe he'll look a little different for the Cougars. But again, we'll see all summer. So
JJ brought up a really good point yesterday, and he mentioned that media days are coming up here in early July.
Yeah,
and
about a month and a half.
About a month and a half, man. And so you kind of want to have a little bit more clarity on the future of your quarterback position before then, because if you had the media days with this lingering over, that's all it's going to be about, and it's just going to overshadow. It's going to overshadow the football talk of it, man.
Certainly. So even if they don't have a decision on their starting quarterback, I would imagine by media days they will have a decision on Jake Retzlaff.
Some sort of more clarity. Absolutely. It seems like it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, you need that.
Yeah.
So we'll see with that. I would definitely recommend checking out KSLSports.com. Our guy Mitch Harper has a couple articles. He had the first article, breaking down the lawsuit, the initial lawsuit. He has all the statements in there from BYU. The initial complaint, Provo Police Department statement, Jake Retzlaff's lawyer's statement, and then Mitch also plugged in the Greg Skordas interview and basically summarized that whole thing in case you missed part of it. So I would definitely recommend going to check all that stuff out. And as I mentioned, obviously big story that's going to be covered all summer. So we will hit on this pretty much every week. Okay, time to take a break. Coming up next on the other side, let's talk NBA basketball. Playoffs are underway. I've had some thoughts throughout the week, and we'll get to those next. This is the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back. It's the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles with me. Thanks for making us a part of your beautiful Saturday morning. All my neighbors were outside mowing their lawns today, this morning. It was really nice weather. I think it's going to be a nice day today.
It is. It's supposed to be nice. It's supposed to be nice all weekend. And
Good.
You know what? It's a long weekend. It's Memorial Day weekend, first of all. We take a moment, I guess, to remember, the reason why Memorial Day is a thing and celebrate those who fought for this country. And then while you're out there, make some burgers, man. Make some meats.
Is that what you're up to this weekend?
Probably. Hopefully.
Nice.
We'll see.
I'm going golfing tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah. Should be fun. Haven't been in a couple months.
There you go, man.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. Might have lost my swing a little bit. I'm pretty stiff. I might need a swing coach.
I've only ever gone mini golfing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Mini golfing's cool.
I haven't done the real thing yet.
Yeah. We'll
see.
We gotta get you out.
All right. We'll see if I do it eventually.
Yeah. Let's do a hey Lloyd, get us a remote at a golf course.
Lloyd, if you're listening.
Please. Okay, Alex, let's talk about, we were going to talk playoffs. I changed my mind in the middle of the break. There was a story that broke earlier in the week. ESPN released an article, basically a mock draft, right? Talking about the upcoming NBA draft in June. And the thing is, they were going through each pick, and the Philadelphia 76ers have the 3rd overall pick. And it was talking about how, they'll probably draft Ace Bailey or whatever. But then there's a paragraph below that basically said, also, Philadelphia is interested in trading for either Lauri Markannen or Kevin Durant. It said teams around the NBA believe, right? So who knows how legit this is, but I think it's a very interesting thing to run with, because obviously it involves the Jazz locally. So assuming that's true, it said, teams around the NBA believe the Philadelphia 76ers are interested in trading for either Kevin Durant or Paul George in order to, Kevin Durant or Lauri Markanen in order to get off Paul George's contract.
Right.
The thing is, to incentivize teams, because Paul George's contract is so bad, they would attach the number 3 pick and Paul George, right? So I'm fascinated by this concept because it's been very divisive throughout the Jazz community, even some of the shows here on the station. I've heard multiple different opinions on it all week, but we do have to make some assumptions first, right? Because if it's, let's say, because the Jazz are picking at 5, right? So if it's Lauri and the 5th pick for Paul George and the 3rd pick, that's an easy no.
I would agree.
Easy no.
I would agree.
Because the tier player that you're going to get at 3 is pretty dang close to the tier player you're going to get at number 5. So you're essentially just trading Lauri Markanen for Paul George. And let's run through some contract numbers. Paul George has 2 years left on his deal, plus a player option that he's definitely going to pick up because it's absurd. So essentially 3 years left on his contract, $51 million, $54 million, $56 million. Meanwhile, Lauri has 4 years left on his deal, $46 million, $46 million, $49, then $53. Paul George is also quite a bit older. He's entering his age 34 season. Lauri Markanen is 28. So the only reason that you would do this if you're the Utah Jazz is essentially you trade for Paul George, bank on the fact that he's going to help you lose games next year, and you get to keep the 5th pick. So you'd be picking at 3, 5, and then I'm assuming you give up Lauri, 21, and maybe a couple other future picks. Is that something that you think the Jazz should be interested in?
See, that changes things, right?
If you can keep 3 and 5.
Exactly. Because 2 top 5 picks in a really, really good draft.
Imagine you get Ace Bailey and Con Knueppel, or Ace Bailey and Trey Johnson, or Ace Bailey and potentially VJ Edgecombe.
What does Stephen A. say? Don't get me salivating about these things, man. I totally butchered that, but that's fine. But no, they have to keep 3 and 5. No matter, or I guess in this case, they have to keep 5.
Yeah.
If they want to trade up for 3. I think that would probably be the best case, absolutely, obviously the best case scenario for the Utah Jazz.
Uh-huh.
You would pick up Paul George, who I believe spent most of this year injured.
Yeah.
Had to be shut down too, halfway through the season. It didn't work in Philly. Whatever plan, whatever team the 76ers put together this season, it was so disappointing because they should have been one of the contenders in the East, and they weren't. You have Joel Embiid, who's been injured basically all season long. You have Paul George, who was basically injured all season long. If you pick up Paul George, I guess does that help in trying to continue to tank? To continue to focus on the youth development? Because, this is a guy who's, what did you say how old he was? 34?
34.
And now he's still dealing with all these injuries?
Yeah.
I guess it could help and it could work in your favor to pick up Paul George in that case if you are looking to lose some games again next season.
I'm on board with it. Again, assuming that the Jazz would keep the 5th pick. Because if you hold on to Lauri, he's a depreciating asset at this point.
It's
as far as
exactly what we said last week.
His trade value, the longer you decide to not trade him away, that trade value is going to decline because the Jazz are going to continue to hold him out of games for fake injuries.
Allegedly.
Because if he's on the court, he's going to help you win.
Yeah.
Right? So if you want to move Lauri, you need to do it now. Meanwhile, if you get Paul George in return, again, either he's not playing because he's injured. He played in, I believe, 41 games last year, so half the season. Either he's hurt or he's so bad that it doesn't matter. Not so bad, right? I mean, taking the name away of it, a player that averages 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists on 43% shooting, that's not terrible, but it's not a player who's going to win you games the same way that a Lauri Markanen would. So in this scenario, you're basically saying, okay, let's swap these contracts, have 2 top 5 picks, tank again for 1 more year, go get either AJ DeBonsa, Darren Peterson, or Cam Boozer in next year's draft because we're still able to lose all these games. And then next offseason, that's when you can think about either buying Paul George out, eating the money because it's not like the Jazz have any players that they're going to need to give Supermax contracts to, right? You can't really trade Paul George. Nobody's going to want to trade for him. So you either basically got to eat this deal for 2 years or hope that he can maybe, I don't know, turn into a good player next season or something. Not next season, in 2 years. Whatever. Either way.
I wouldn't hate it, man. I wouldn't hate it as long as you hold on to that 5th pick.
Because what are you going to do with $56 million anyways next season?
Yeah.
You don't need that money in the 2025-26 season. Now, the season after is when they're going to need to start thinking about extensions for all these young guys. But again, none of them have earned Supermax contracts or max contracts even. So I'm not really concerned about the money thing. The only way that it would be an issue is if, like, somehow there's a big free agent. But even then, I think the Jazz would have enough resources still.
Yeah. I think ultimately because of how well and how good this draft is towards the top, I think it's in the best interest for the Utah Jazz to try their best to move up, man. Do anything you can.
Not just move up, add another pick.
Add another pick. There you go.
Because moving up would imply you're losing 5.
Right.
If you have to do something that would get rid of the 5th pick, I don't think, unless Danny Ainge really, really likes Ace Bailey or something.
I just don't think that would be beneficial. Because if you have 3 and 5, you allow yourself an opportunity to draft 2 guys who can potentially come in and be superstars.
You're throwing 2 darts at the dartboard.
Exactly.
Instead of just 1.
One's got to hit.
One of them has to hit.
One of them's got to come good. One of them's got to be that guy that the Jazz are looking for to be their next superstar. You give yourselves an opportunity to have 2 shots at what could be that guy.
And again, making it easier for you to lose next year.
Right.
Giving you another shot at a really loaded draft next year.
And I think for the most part, man, if there is any type of interest, if there is any genuine interest in Lauri Markanen this offseason, I think you have to take it.
You have to. And I truly believe there's going to be. And I think we spent some time on this last week, right? Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Lauri Markanen. 3 names that teams should be really interested in trading for. And when I say teams, I mean very specific teams.
Right.
You've got the Spurs, who should be looking to make a move. They're entering their win now window. They should be looking to surround Victor Wembanyama with all of the talent that they can get ASAP. Go in, push all your chips in. Houston, same thing. All right. Philadelphia, if they're interested. I don't think they should be, but that's a whole other conversation. So essentially, that's 3 teams right there, and then the 3 players that I just mentioned. It's like musical chairs.
Right.
And you never know. There could be some surprise teams that garner some interest as well. So to tie it back to the beginning of the conversation, and like you were just saying, you've got to move Lauri right now.
This is right now at this point.
If your plan is to trade him.
Right now at this point, this is going to be probably the most you can get out of Lauri, unless he, comes into next season and is no longer injured and is putting up all-star numbers like he did when he first came to the Utah Jazz. Then that's a different conversation. That's a different story. But again, if you're in the conversation of we need to tank a little bit more to give ourselves another good opportunity this upcoming draft, then I think it would be in the best interest to move on from Lauri Markannen.
Corrections and retractions. Paul George is 35, not 34.
Well,
so he's even older. That's an awful contract. That is such a bad deal for Philadelphia.
2 more years and a player option?
Yeah.
So he'd be 38 if he picks up the option?
He would be, 35, 36, so he'd be 37 on the player option, which is $56 million.
I guess LeBron's what, 40?
Right, LeBron's 40, but LeBron didn't miss half of last year.
And LeBron's LeBron.
Yeah. So I think this is super interesting stuff. I think this could be a very pivotal offseason for the Utah Jazz, and I think we're finally going to learn kind of some direction, right? Because I don't see a world in which they keep Lauri Markannen just to sit him out every other game again. They got in trouble for that.
Right.
I doubt Lauri wants to do that because he's in the prime of his career.
And you're just losing trade value, man.
And you're losing trade value. So either you trade him away or you keep him and decide to maybe start winning games and say, you know what? We tanked out, didn't get the best of lottery luck. Let's just try. So that's always another option for the Jazz, and I think what they do with Lauri Markannen will kind of tell us their plan. But we'll see. Yeah, big month ahead. The draft, June 25th. We'll see if any moves are made before then. Time for another break. Coming up next, we will talk technical fouls. The Colorado Rockies are so bad they're getting sued by fans.
Oh, no.
We'll talk about that next. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles with you on a beautiful Saturday morning, Memorial weekend. Hope you're grilling, hope you're fishing, hope you're golfing. What else do you do on Memorial weekend?
Did you say fishing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's all I got.
I'm golfing. Maybe I'll go fishing Monday. Yeah, that sounds fun. Lloyd, get us a remote at a trout pond.
Just all the places. Everywhere.
You heard the intro. It's time for technical fouls. Time for one of our favorite segments of the week. We get to talk about some of the lighthearted things that happen in sports. This is an easy one. All right. Saw this story. Got to talk about it. The Colorado Rockies are the worst team in baseball. Currently 9-42.
Did you see that no other team has had this terrible of a start since like 1895 or something?
Worst start ever.
It's insane. Oh my
Hapless
goodness.
Colorado Rockies off to MLB's worst 50-game start since 1895 is what this headline says. Headline. I said headlight. Anyway, so we could just talk about how bad they are, but no, Alex, there is another wrinkle. Here's another headline for you. Colorado Rockies fan hit an eye with foul ball is suing team, citing Rockies are so bad it's hard to pay attention to the game. This happened July 16th, 2023, so they've been bad for a while, but it's just piling on for the Rockies, their own fans. This guy was in a luxury box at Coors Field.
Oh.
Suffered catastrophic and permanent injuries when he was hit in the face and right eye by a foul ball during the Rockies' July 16th game against the New York Yankees. Funny enough, they just beat the Yankees last night. But anyways, I think this is hilarious because they're so bad. the fans don't want to pay attention to the game, and they're just getting hit in the face with foul balls.
How terrible do you have to be 9-42?
Yeah,
You know?
apparently pretty terrible.
I think the projection, or the projected wins now for the Rockies, as of yesterday, it was like they're going to win 20 games this season. That's
and
that's
an
all-time low.
The White Sox set the all-time worst record last year,
right? And
they were
the Rockies are well on their way to beat it.
Yeah. Well, good news for Rockies fans. They do have a pitcher. As I mentioned, they did beat the Yankees last night. I believe it was 3-2. Apologies if the score is wrong. But they've got a new pitcher. I'm not much of a baseball guy, but I have heard of this guy, Alex. His name is Bo Nix.
Oh, come on.
Throughout the first pitch, Bo Nix, Broncos quarterback, threw out the first pitch for the Rockies in their win last night over the Yankees, and they end up winning. I don't think it's a coincidence at all. They won 3-2. It was a beautiful strike right down the middle. Definitely the best pitcher in Denver right now. So,
best pitcher, best quarterback.
Yeah.
What else? What else is in his repertoire?
Let's get Jokic out there as well.
Would Jokic ever do it?
I don't know, but I'm saying, yeah, I'm saying that like clearly their team is so bad, so they just got to start eating at the talent from the other Denver sports teams. Get Nathan McKinnon out there, Cale Makar.
I would feel bad for Colorado Rockies fans, but I really don't.
Why? Because you don't care about baseball.
No. It's not that at all. It's you've been spoiled with the Nuggets for how many years?
Well, they won the championship 2 years ago. The Avs won the championship.
Exactly. You're spoiled
recently.
with the Avs too. Your soccer team sucks.
The Broncos are back, baby. So,
the Broncos are doing good. Like, look, you have other things going on for you in your market.
Can't win them all.
Do I feel bad? Absolutely not.
I think it's funny, yeah.
I think it's hilarious. The Colorado Rockies are terrible, but, I mean, hey, you don't have to go see the Rockies. You can go watch, you can watch the Avs. You can go watch the Nuggets. There's other options there in the Denver market.
You know what? I have another technical foul. Sticking with baseball, actually, and it's probably a little too late to find the sound. Sorry, Parker, I apologize. But there was a guy in Phoenix who was like, he's part of Congress or something. Again, butchering this, but I got to bring it up. He's so paranoid about losing the MLB team to Utah because of what happened with the Arizona Coyotes. So the Diamondbacks have a stadium situation. The stadium needs to get rebuilt.
Right.
But it's going to be very expensive, and the owners don't want to fund it completely. So basically, they're going to need to publicly fund it. If that doesn't go through, they might need to end up relocating because they don't have a stadium to play in. And the guy was talking on a radio show actually at our sister station down there, and he specifically mentioned like going to Utah because Utah has been very aggressive. Of course, we've got the whole big league Utah thing with the Millers here.
Right.
They're very aggressive in trying to bring an MLB team here to Salt Lake City. And so it's funny hearing him talk about this. He is like so paranoid about losing another major league team to Utah. And I thought it was hilarious because he said something about, oh, I don't want them to rename them the Utah Pikas or whatever stupid name they're going to pick.
Look, man.
And then he took shots of the Mammoth name and said it was dumb. Cry. Cry harder.
We'll take your baseball team.
Yeah, we'll take your NFL team. We'll take your baseball team.
We'll take all of it. Dude, imagine if we take their hockey team, if we take their baseball team, and then in like 40 years when we're old and gray, their football team comes here.
That would be funny.
Oh, man. I would die in peace. So
there was another technical foul there.
Real quick, I want to sneak one more in.
Okay, you found one.
Before we go to break. I forgot. I saw this earlier this week. One of the wildest, weirdest headlines that I've seen in a while. But this was an article posted, and the headline is Drake curse continues as rapper bets on Maple Leafs game in Game 7, then attempts to blame Justin Bieber for the loss.
Yeah. Your guy Alex talked about this earlier in the week.
Wild.
Well, so for those that don't know, the Drake curse is very real. Drake has a gambling problem in general.
Big problem.
He loves gambling. Yeah. He loves gambling on sports, and it's a pretty notorious thing. He has a bad track record of whoever he bets on tends to lose.
Exactly. If Drake picks your team, you're in for a rough night.
Don't even play. Don't even bother.
Don't even bother to pay attention. You're gonna lose.
So Drake, being from Toronto, I don't know if he's a real Maple Leafs fan or a fake Maple Leafs fan, but he bet on them in Game 7.
I don't even think he's a real sports fan.
Against the Florida Panthers. Meanwhile, Justin Bieber, who is from, again, Canada, maybe he's from Toronto, I can't remember, but he is a legit Toronto Maple Leafs fan.
Right.
He played in the NHL Celebrity All-Star Game. Born and bred, I've seen videos of him ice skating. I know he likes hockey. So the Maple Leafs lose Game 7, and Drake tries to put the blame on Justin Bieber.
What'd Justin Bieber do?
Well, they're friends. I think it's a lighthearted thing.
What'd Justin Bieber do, man?
I've seen some recent things with Justin Bieber. I don't think he's doing too well.
I think at this point, Drake knows that he's the curse, and he knows he's bad luck, and so he just continues to do it to get people to.
Well, they should have been on the Panthers.
Get schmucks like us to talk about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's a little bit of NHL playoffs there. We'll talk more NHL playoffs coming up later. Coming up next, though, we'll get to the NBA playoffs. Conference finals are underway. Both series are 2-0. We'll hit that next. This is the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles. Thanks for making us a part of your Saturday morning, whether you are driving to the golf course, to the store, to your barbecue spot, hangout place.
To your grandma's house. Wherever it is that you're going.
Or maybe, maybe kids' soccer games or baseball games.
Yeah, there you go.
I feel like that's probably this time of day, right?
Yeah. I used to play this early.
Yeah, I don't have kids that age.
Back in the day when I would actually wake up early to do stuff.
It's 11.
I'm going to tell you right now, bro. I'm going to tell you right now. In college, on the weekends, I wouldn't wake up before 2 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah.
Party animal.
It wasn't even that I was partying. It was just that I was up all night
Friday
with my
night
roommates.
benders.
No. I was just up Friday nights playing Fortnite with my roommates. Okay. And we would go to sleep at 7 a.m.
There you go.
Yeah.
I miss those days.
I miss those days too, man. I have to be responsible now. What is this?
Let's talk NBA playoffs. Big game last night. The Pacers beat the New York Knicks 114-109. Pacers go up 2-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Both sides are 2-0, of course. The Thunder lead Minnesota in the West. And I think my initial take from this is it's a little bit underwhelming that both conference finals are 2-0 to start.
Look, man, I was very excited and very impressed with the conference semifinals.
Yeah.
Right? We had even a series that went up to Game 7 in the Thunder and Nuggets. Those ones were fun. The conference semifinals were fun. The conference finals so far haven't really been as exciting. I mean, you do have the comeback effort from the Pacers that I thought was obviously super exciting.
Yeah.
But, the series being 2-0, there's a really big possibility that both of them get swept.
There is. I think it's a little too early to say that is likely. But, yeah, it's a possibility. Either way, 2-0 start, not a good look for the Knicks or the Timberwolves. Of course, that Game 1 shot, got to talk about Tyrese Halliburton. Tying it up, final second, hitting the choke celebration. Thought that was special. Thought that was awesome in Madison Square Garden. Pacers, by the way, the road team, so they win 2 games in New York. Now they go back to Indiana for the next 2 games.
Right.
And that's big. And watching these playoffs, I've kind of had some thoughts about what the Jazz need to do to get there, right? And one conversation that a lot of people seem to have is, do you need a top 10 player to win a championship? And I think the overwhelming answer is yes, right? Looking at recent champions, Celtics, yes, they have one. Nuggets, yes, they had one. Warriors, yes. Bucks, yes. Lakers, Raptors, Warriors, Cavs, Warriors, Spurs, on and on and on. The list of NBA champions, I don't know the last time an NBA team won a title without having a top 10 player on the roster. Now, there are some times where some conversations can, about getting to the championship without necessarily winning, right? Like Miami Heat. Was Jimmy Butler a top 10 player in the NBA 2 years ago? He's definitely in the playoffs, I would say yes, overwhelmingly. But again, like for the regular season, whatever, borderline top 10 player at that time. Suns, a couple years ago against the Bucks, Devin Booker was probably a top 10 player. But again, it's not like an overwhelming, oh yeah, for sure, right? So there are a couple instances where it was maybe close. But either way, I think you need to have the guy that is, one of the best players in the NBA. And I think looking at all the teams left right now, I think each of them do. I think that the Thunder, obviously, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just won MVP. I think the Nuggets, Nikola Jokic is probably the best player in the world still. Halliburton proved it this year, top 10 player. Jalen Brunson is your guy that's like probably borderline, I'd say. But again, borderline might be enough to get you there. So regardless, I think that shows that that's where you start as far as what the Jazz would need to get there, because this is what their goal was. This is why they tore down the Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert roster, because that team couldn't get out of the second round. They couldn't get it done.
Right.
They are chasing the for sure top 10 guy that you build around and can get you to the finals and give you a shot. I do think it's interesting that all of these teams have been built in different ways. The Thunder, of course, traded away Paul George, got a ton of draft picks, and their franchise centerpiece in SGA. The Nuggets really just got lucky with drafting the best player in the world in the second round. The Pacers, again, traded away Paul George and then got Sabonis and traded Sabonis for Tyrese Halliburton. So that's a little bit of a funny thing. And then the Knicks signed Jalen Brunson in free agency and then made some trades for their other key players. Funny side note, two of these teams got here by trading away Paul George.
I think that's the best part about this.
I think that's funny. Maybe that's why the Jazz need to trade for Paul George.
Going back to, well, no, because the teams that traded for Paul George, did they really, did they really benefit?
Yeah, not
right?
Really.
The Thunder didn't benefit until they traded him away to, who did they trade him to? Was it the Clippers?
The Thunder traded him to the Clippers.
The Clippers,
yeah.
There you go. Why did I forget that? The Pacers obviously had built up an arsenal of picks that eventually led to Sabonis, that eventually led to Halliburton, right?
Well, the Pacers sent Paul George to the Thunder for Sabonis. Sabonis was on the Thunder, yeah.
Oh, see, there you go.
Either way, that led to Halliburton.
Exactly. But the teams that actually traded for him, did they?
Yeah.
I don't know if they actually really benefited off of Paul George.
Not really.
So I don't know. I don't know if the Jazz want to get involved in that.
No, I don't know. Go listen, to our 10:30 segment. The Thunder did it, and they were able to flip him. But yeah, you're not flipping Paul George right now. Either way, I think these conference finals, a lot to take away. I think on the Knicks-Pacers side, obviously two very close games. You had game one that goes in overtime, game two really close. And it just feels like, again, as we've seen with so many Tom Thibodeau teams, if you look at the minutes these guys play, their starters are all playing. Mikal Bridges, 45 minutes. Jalen Brunson, 39 minutes. OG Anunoby, 36. And then you've got Karl Anthony Towns at 28 and Josh Hart at 29. Then to the bench, Mitchell Robinson, really good defender, 29 minutes. And then Miles McBride, 25 minutes. And that's it. You had Campaign play 9, but that doesn't, 0 of 3 from the field. 1 assist, 1 turnover. So, what I'm trying to say is you have a 7-man rotation, and that's not going to cut it in the playoffs. That's not going to cut it. Whether you're getting production from them or not, you need to go deeper on your bench than that. And that's just not something the Knicks have because they spent so many assets to get Mikal Bridges and some of these other guys on the roster. They're just out of gas. And when it gets late in the fourth quarter and the Pacers have been the fourth quarter team literally all season long, you just can't compete with that. So if the Knicks want to win this series, they need to have such a big lead where you can slow down in the fourth quarter a little bit and still win. If it's a close game in the fourth, I know that Jalen Brunson won Clutch Player of the Year or whatever made-up award that was. At this point, this late in the season, that doesn't matter.
Right.
The team's running out of gas, and right now Indiana has all the momentum. Going back to Indiana, Tyrese Halliburton is on a heater. And you know what? Pascal Siakam did it for him last night, 39 points, and he was a huge... think they traded for him. I don't think he was a free agent a couple years ago.
They traded from him from Toronto.
Yeah.
And he's been a phenomenal addition.
Yeah.
Honestly. He's kind of I feel like look, first of all, this Indiana Pacers team has really flown under the radar.
Which is funny because they were here last year.
Right.
But everybody was like, "Oh, this is the Atlanta Hawks fluke run. They're not going to be here again."
Oh, you know what? Yes. I did. I remember seeing that online.
I don't know if I ever said it because we weren't on air at that point, but I definitely thought that.
Right. And, you know, a lot of credit has to be given to the Pacers for what they've been able to accomplish. Tyrese Halliburton was voted the most overrated player in the NBA earlier this year by his peers. And he took it personal, man.
Yeah.
He took it personal, and now him and Siakam leading this Pacer team to a conference finals. Not only that, but being up 2-0, stealing home court advantage from the Knicks. You won 2 games on the road. You're taking this back to your place.
Yeah.
You're in the driver's seat. You're in the best case scenario for yourselves right now. All you got to do is close it out at home, and you're into an NBA Finals.
Meanwhile, the Thunder, they go up 2-0. They're going to be going up to Minneapolis now. See if the Timberwolves can get back into it. These first 2 games have not been super competitive, I wouldn't say. Finals were 118-103, 114-88. I think the biggest thing, especially with Game 2, is Julius Randle put up a stinker, and that was really unfortunate because he had been good all playoffs
6
for
points.
the Timberwolves. 6 points, 2 of 11 from the field. That is awful.
That's terrible.
That is so bad. The other thing with Minnesota is they have not been able to play Rudy Gobert. Only 30 minutes. Well, Game 1 was 21 minutes. Game 2, a little more, 30 minutes. But he's just ineffective. He can't really do anything against the Thunder's lineup because of how they play. And we could get into the whole, SGA foul baiting stuff. But regardless, he's putting up points. And he is their centerpiece. I think the bigger story for the Thunder is that they continue to have a Robin to SGA's Batman, and that's Jalen Williams. Just named 3rd team All-NBA. He made his first All-Star selection this season. 25 points in Game 2 the other night. 26, sorry. But still, when you have a reliable second option, even with SGA playing out of his mind, you need somebody else to step up, and J-Dub has shown that. So we'll see.
For me, Minnesota, I feel like they're still struggling to effectively shoot the ball. And that's ultimately what's been biting them.
28% from 3 in Game 2. I think Game 1 it was like 24% or something.
Right.
I don't have the box score
right.
pulled
and
up. But
you remember last series, they were talking about how bad they were from 3. And they were talking about how bad their shooting has been. And I don't think that they've fully recovered from that. I still think that this Timberwolves team is struggling to shoot the ball. And on top of that, you have you have the Thunder who just matches up, I guess, really poor with, really good with them because they're
it's a hard matchup for the Timberwolves.
There you go. And for the Timberwolves, look, I know Anthony Edwards finally got going. He got 32 points this last time, and then you have Jaden McDaniels there who scored 22, but at the same time, you're not really getting much production off of your other guys.
Yeah.
And that's also something that needs to change.
Well, Julius Randle single-handedly beat the Warriors, essentially, right?
Right.
And to not show up in this series is bad. Anthony Edwards, he did have a good game, 32 points. No turnovers, which is huge because that's what the Thunder do, is they turn you over. So really good performance by him, but the big thing is 1 of 9 from 3. And I think the key is like one of the most athletic players in the NBA. I know that he put a lot of work in to develop his three-point shot, one of the best shooters in the NBA this season as far as from 3. But if it's not working, it's not going to work. And at a certain point in the game, you got to realize that that is a detriment to your team. If it's not going in, you just got to get to the rim. The Thunder or the Timberwolves actually shot more free throws than the Thunder in Game 2. They shot 26 free throws to the Thunder's 24. For as much foul baiting talk as there has been surrounding Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I think that's the thing, is you still got to get to the interior. I know that it's hard, but the Thunder's strength is with their perimeter defense and their length around the arc and their athleticism. But once you get into the interior, you're driving on Jalen Williams, the center, or Chet Holmgren. And, those are guys you can score on, especially for Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle. So I think that's what they should be doing, is trying to drive more, get to the rim more. We saw it a little bit in Game 2 compared to Game 1. Game 1, they barely drove at all. But hopefully for Minnesota's sake and for our sake as viewers wanting to see a competitive series, we'll see if they can turn things around Game 3 tonight.
I think in this series, I would be very, very surprised, very shocked if the Timberwolves are able to pull one back. Honestly, I think so? I think tonight the Thunder.
You think it's already done? You're burying them.
Yeah, and I know it's a little early. But I really, really love the way the Thunder match up with them.
I'm going to Minnesota in a month.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, my mom's from there.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
gonna go see Grandpa.
Nice.
But so got local ties. We'll see. I think it's too early to bury them. I do. It's the conference finals. Like I said, it is underwhelming that both series are 2-0, but I think it's a little too early to bury anyone. But if the Thunder win tonight, go up 3-0, that's when you can bury them.
Maybe
you
pull one back in Game 4.
Yeah.
But
nobody's ever come back from 3-0.
You're going if you go into Game 5, at 3-1, you're gonna that's it.
Yeah.
I don't expect this to go any further than Game 5.
One last thing I want to hit on with this. I saw some things online, and that's why I want to bring it up. Just some reaction from Jazz fans watching this. Is I saw a lot of people say, look at the Thunder, this is why tanking works. And I want to remind everybody that the Thunder did not build this roster by tanking. Completely, as I said, you look at these 4 teams, they were all built in drastically different ways. So I think the main takeaway is there's not a blueprint on building a championship team. You just have to make smart moves. Whatever those moves are, they have to be smart. You got to have a good front office, good coaching. That's what matters most. The Thunder built this roster, again, by trading away Paul George for SGA and 7 picks.
Right.
One of those turned into Jalen Williams, their second best player. So they did have 2 bad seasons. One of those bad seasons turned into Chet Holmgren at number 2 overall. But regardless, your best player and your second best player on this team were from the trade, not from tanking. Not to say that the Jazz can't get good players from tanking, but I just don't think that as far as blueprints, Oklahoma City is not the team to look at for Jazz fans. If you're talking about that, I would look at the Thunder, or not the. Don't look at the Thunder. Look at the Rockets. Look at the Rockets.
I knew what you're saying.
Look at the Pistons.
Yeah.
Look at teams that draft players really high in the draft and develop and build internally from within. And it's a long, slow process. It's painful, but this is where the Jazz are at. Don't think that the Thunder are a good comparison, because they're really not at all.
Unless you take a swing on someone, they trade him in, and they ends up being as good as Shai.
Right, but even then, when the Thunder traded Paul George for Shai, because he had played a year for the Clippers already, and people knew. I can't remember if he won Rookie of the Year. I'm getting hazy now, but people knew that he had all-star potential by then.
Mm-hmm.
If you trade Lauri away, I don't know if you're getting an all-star potential player back at this point. But again, going back to the whole 76ers and Paul George thing, if you can trade him to Philly for the 3rd pick, if you can trade him to San Antonio for the 2nd pick, if you can trade him to Houston for a top 10 pick, like, it's just another dart of the dartboard, giving you another shot. And anyway, don't compare the Jazz to the Thunder. It's not close.
It seems like if the Jazz want to find their top 10 player, find their top 10 superstar that can potentially help them get over the top, it's going to have to come from the draft.
Right, yes. Yeah. Thank you for finding a point to make out of this. Yeah. For the Jazz to find their franchise cornerstone, and this is the path they have chosen, by the way, right? This is what Danny Ainge, probably Ryan Smith, Justin Zanuck, this is what they have all agreed upon as the best path for finding a franchise player for the Jazz is through the draft, through bottoming out, through throwing all these darts at the board, taking all these draft picks. Now, you haven't found it yet. You've made 6 first-round selections over the past 2 years, and I don't think any of those guys would qualify as your franchise player. But the good thing is they have found some pieces, right? It's not like all those guys are duds. Isaiah Collier, Kyle Filipowski, they had really good rookie seasons. They outperformed expectations. I think they'd be solid role players.
I would agree.
Bryce Sensabaugh has proven that he could be a very, very valuable role player. Jury's out on Keontae George. I think Taylor Hendricks has star potential. I don't think he has really franchise player potential, but I could really see him being one of the better two-way players in the NBA. And then we'll see what happens with Cody Williams. But I think there are some pieces there. It just looks bad right now because you don't have the guy. But once you get the guy, things are going to turn around because of the pieces that are in place already.
Would it be awesome for the Utah Jazz to, trade for somebody who can come in and be your top 10 player? Absolutely. Would that speed up the timeline?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. But there's just no guarantee.
Right?
Well,
and that's just simply not the path they've chosen.
Exactly.
And it's too late now.
And I think if you look back at like that Shou trade, I don't think anybody ever thought that he would be at this position today. They took a swing. and it worked out incredibly well for them.
I'm looking at his first year.
I think would it be awesome? Would it be great? Absolutely. You speed up the timeline, and for Jazz fans, obviously that gets you a little bit closer to a position where you can start to win games.
Yeah.
Sure. But it's going to have to come from the draft.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Another thought real quick that I had watching these playoffs and watching Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the biggest thing that stands out from him is his size, right? Because he's about 6'5", 6'6", but he's skinny. Who does that remind you of? Cody Williams. A little bit. Now, Cody's a little bit taller is the thing. And Shai is a much better ball handler at this point than Cody Williams is. The point, I'm not trying to say that Cody Williams has MVP potential because that would be ridiculous to say. But the point is, you can be small in the NBA and still find success.
I would agree.
And even though Cody Williams had one of the worst rookie years we've really ever seen, to be frank, I'm not out on him. I'm not ready to give up on him.
Right. It's still too early to tell.
There are ways to succeed at his size, and we know the shot making is there, the shot creation is there. And you know what? Looking back at some of the scouting reports for Cody Williams coming out of Colorado, a lot of people were talking about his ball handling being good for his size. And so I don't think that he's ever going to be, again, because he's not a primary ball handler. He's not a point guard. But if you can find a way, Cody Williams, to manipulate the space kind of the same way that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is. I saw a lot of comparisons to like a snake or like a slinky. And the way that he's able to draw fouls because of the way he moves around people and around the paint and things like that, I think that would be really beneficial for Cody Williams. Now, of course, when you're a star, you get a much better whistle than if you're a rookie coming off or a second-year player coming off a really bad rookie season, right?
Yeah.
So it may be really hard for him to start drawing the whistle consistently, but I do think that watching Shai Gilgeous-Alexander perform at this level, it makes me feel better about Cody Williams because it reminds me that you don't have to be huge. You don't have to put on 25, 30 pounds of muscle like Giannis did, right? Or like Rudy did. You can be slight. You can have a smaller build and still find success. So, again, not trying to say Cody Williams will turn into Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but there are ways to succeed being a small guy.
Yep, absolutely. And I think it's just up for him to figure that out.
Yeah.
And figure out how to do it.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up next, we'll get to 5 minutes of a couple of things to hit there. Team USA going to be playing for gold. We've got NHL playoffs to talk about that. Much more next. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Violet Coleman brought back by Beniers. Along with O'Connor. Rink wide pass and a quick shot. Score! Esaban slides it by Markstrom. And it's 4-0 Team USA.
There you go. You hear it right there. Team USA getting it on in the Men's Hockey World Championships. They beat Sweden 6-2 in the semifinal round. USA is going to be going for gold, baby.
That's awesome, man.
Big deal there.
You love to see it. And it's awesome, too, that there are some local ties in this Team USA, man.
4 Mammoth players on the roster. You got Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley, Josh Doan, and Michael Kesselring.
Love it.
Clayton Keller is second on the team in points with 11. Logan Cooley has been named one of the 3 stars of the roster for Team USA. So a couple of guys, really heavy contributors there. On the other side of the bracket, Team USA will be playing either Switzerland or Denmark. Switzerland leads 3-0 in the second period there. The championship game will be Sunday. So something to keep an eye on. I know that the 4 Nations face-off ended in bitter defeat for Team USA, but taking gold home from the Worlds would be huge. I do want to say Canada suffered a really embarrassing defeat. Just want to make fun of them. They were heavy favorites to win the tournament, I believe, and they lost 2-1 to Denmark the other day in the quarterfinals. And they have like an all-star roster, like Sidney Crosby and some other really, really good players playing for Canada, and they lose. So we'll see if Captain Clayton Keller, he's captaining this team. We'll see if they can get it done. I think this is huge. I'm excited.
I also think it's awesome that they were able to beat Sweden in Sweden, man.
Yeah, they are the host country
Sweden
for this
hosting
tournament.
it. And they had a Freebird just blasting over the arena in Sweden for after the.
We should have came in with that. We'll do that next segment.
Yeah, we should have. Phenomenal stuff. And it just makes it a little bit better and a little bit sweeter for us here in Utah. One, because we're all about the hockey now.
Yeah,
We'll take in any hockey that we can get as we continue to learn the sport and continue to learn to love this sport. And of course, the local ties with Cooley, with Keller, with Doan, with Kesselring. It's all awesome to see them be able to play in this final, man. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Moving on to the NHL playoffs, semifinals are underway, or conference finals, however you want to call it, underway there. Let's see, in the West, we've got the Stars and the Oilers tied up 1-1 there.
Oilers with the win last night.
Yeah, Oilers win last night 3-0. I did see a spicy video of McJesus in the locker room during Game 1. He was getting after his team.
Yeah.
Looks like he motivated them, and they beat Dallas 3-0 last night. So that the West is tied up. The East, not so much. The Panthers are putting the beat down on on the Carolina Hurricanes, and it has not been particularly close. 6-0 in Game 2, 5-2 in Game 1.
Yeah.
So it looks like the Panthers are coming out of the East.
And that's kind of what it seemed like after that first series for them in the playoffs, right?
They beat the Lightning 4-1.
Where they beat the Lightning, right? And then
But then Toronto took them to Game 7.
Toronto kind of, put in some doubt for the Florida Panthers, but now the Panthers are like, hey, you know what? We're still the team to beat.
They're really good.
We're still the top dogs.
Defending Stanley Cup champions.
We won it, and then Drake happened. We won it last season, but and we're proving why we can win it again this year. That series in the East, unfortunately, hasn't been fun. But man, that Oilers Stars series,
Yeah, this is big.
that one's been fun to watch so far.
Yeah, McDavid on the Oilers still hasn't been able to get over the top and get his championship there. But then the Stars really deep as well. I mean, they're a perennial contender, and they made the big move for Mikko Rantanen at the trade deadline. That would be cool for them if they could work it out, and see that move pay off. But the Panthers made moves as well, right? Bringing in Marchand. So I think that is pretty interesting. 2 of the 4 conference finalists made moves at the trade deadline to bolster their rosters. Maybe they'll be playing each other for the championship. But again, don't count out the Oilers simply because they have one of the best players in hockey. I mean, all 4 of these teams have really good players, right? But I think Connor McDavid, you can call him one of the best, if not the best player. I mean, best nickname, I think.
I think it would be awesome to see Mikko Rantanen and the Stars make it to the championship, to the Stanley Cup Finals, and have a matchup with the Florida Panthers. I think that would be some really exciting hockey. But I also wouldn't be surprised if we get a rematch from last season.
That would be. I think I'd rather have the rematch. I love
surprised.
rematches and championships. Oilers and Panthers. I think that would be cool.
One rematch is fine.
But you don't want like a 3 in a row. You don't want Warriors.
But when
Cavs.
you go Warriors Cavs and it's just consistently
Really?
Warriors Cavs, it gets kind of.
See, I disagree with that.
No.
I thought the Warriors Cavs deal was so cool.
No, I think once it gets to a point, like, it just gets redundant.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
For me, I feel like it gets redundant. One is fine. One is great. The rematch is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But once you get to like a 3rd or 4th or whatever, however long the
I guess there's
the
probably
Warriors
a point where
and
it's like, okay, nobody
the Cavs
else is
went.
good.
Yeah, I was like, come on, man.
Christian, you've got to be sick of seeing my Chiefs in the Super Bowl, right?
It's fine.
It's
Of course.
No,
Yeah,
you don't
I am
lie to
sick of-
me,
We
Christian.
couldn't make it through a show without Parker
Yes.
plugging
How
the
did-
Chiefs.
what did the Chiefs have
Alex,
to do with
I'm
this?
on your side. We keep showing up, and I know Christian's sick of it.
Yeah,
That's
no,
what
I would
Alex
agree.
is talking about.
Right, but
you don't want to
it's-
see the same team over and over and over again. You want a new
But with-
set, a new winner, almost every year or two.
I think with it, like, I agree that with the Chiefs, but like if it's again like being that we got the Chiefs Eagles again this year, I liked that. I wanted to see story number 2.
You liked that because we got our butts whooped.
No. Even before that, I'm saying I like that. The Eagles got a chance. Even before the game, I was like, "Oh, this is cool seeing a rematch." I would like seeing a rematch of Panthers and Edmonton.
That's what I said. Yeah, one is fine.
And I would like, because say Edmonton wins this year, hypothetically,
Yeah.
it's 1-1, baby. Who's going to win the third, right?
I guess.
It's a story.
It is a story. And obviously we'll be tuned in regardless. I'm a big sucker for watching these Stanley Cup playoffs
And I don't know
now.
why their numbers have been so awful. The viewership numbers that's like
really?
a huge, yes, in
I haven't
America.
seen them yet.
So the viewership numbers have dropped like badly, and they're worried.
Interesting.
In Canada, they're doing just fine.
It seems like, at least from I guess our perspective here in Utah and in Salt Lake, it seems like everyone's kind of been locked in.
Yeah, it is funny how that works. Like in our world,
Right.
everybody's watching it, but
I'll have to go and look at the
nationwide,
numbers.
I don't think very many people are watching. I don't know, but
Interesting.
I think the finals will draw some eyes.
They always
as
do.
always.
They always do.
Last story here in 5 minutes of College Football Playoff Committee approved the straight seeding model, getting rid of automatic buys for conference champions. Of course, the big story last year was Boise State getting an automatic buy as the 3 seed? Or maybe they were 4 seed. Either way, they had an automatic buy. A lot of people were unhappy with that. Boise State actually took some shots at the College Football Playoff Committee.
Oh, did they?
Basically, yeah, I can't remember exactly what they said, but they were just basically making fun, calling
After
it the
the
Boise
sitting?
State rule.
After the scene got approved?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Just saying, oh, you made this rule because of us. So I don't know. There's a lot of talk about conference championship games not mattering anymore. I'm not ready to make that opinion yet, but it does kind of lower how much they matter, but I wouldn't say they don't.
I would agree.
I wouldn't say they don't matter.
Well, I think that's a question that's going to be answered once we get into the season, and once we start seeing all this being played out. As far as like the seeding goes, though, I am a fan. I do
the straight seeding.
I do enjoy that. I do like that, just because I feel like it'll give you an opportunity to have better matchups.
There's no reason that the 4th-ranked team, I don't remember how it was set up last year, but there's no reason that, a 4th-ranked team should not have a bye and a lower team should have the bye.
Right. Well, this is why we're having this. Yeah, this is why we're having this conversation, is because Boise and Arizona State, who I think Arizona State were like the bottom team that got in. I think even Clemson was ranked above Arizona State last season, but obviously Arizona State got the bye because of the conference championship.
Yeah. So, no, I'm with you. I think the top 4 seeds should get the top 4 buys. But I think the other thing about this is something that's going to be changed every year, I think.
Which
they're talking about,
and that I'm not a fan of.
They're talking about expanding already to a 14 or 16 team playoff in the near future. I think that's going to happen soon. And yeah, I'm with you. I'm not a fan of changing it every single year. Don't change it just to change it.
Exactly.
If you know that you're moving towards a 16-team format, do it. Like, get there already. But then you've also got all this drama between the Big 10/SEC versus the ACC/Big 12. Of course, the big dogs want to push the little dogs out and hoard everything for themselves and try to limit the amount of automatic bids for the smaller conferences. So that's another story to monitor as this evolves.
I think right now, with going into this new straight seeding format, I think it'll work a lot better for the viewers to watch better matchups. And I think ultimately, from a neutral perspective, I think that's obviously what you want.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be great. But I feel like once we get to a point where we've figured it out and the playoff is super great and super fun, then let's just leave it at that, Right. There's no need to change it every single year.
But that's where we are in college football. Every single year.
Look, get it to 16. Get rid of the buys. Get it to 16. Everyone just plays straight up from the first round.
No buys.
No buys.
Interesting.
16. Everybody goes head to head. You're going to have number 1 taking on number 16 that first week. And then you just go from there, man.
Could be. Call up the committee. Get Alex on
Look, dude, I feel like there's a simple answer in front of our eyes to fix this whole thing. And the Big 12 and the Big 10 and the SEC just refuse to see it.
Well, they're greedy. Alex,
I know.
And they want to make every slimy dollar they can.
It's whatever. We'll still watch.
That's the bottom line.
We'll still be
Good
there.
Point.
Jeez.
Got to take a break. Coming up next, going to wrap up the show, talk about a little what else we got going on the station today. So stay with us. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Freebird, baby.
Let's go!
Team USA will be playing for gold in case you missed it. Team USA beat Sweden 6-2. They will be playing the winner of Switzerland and Denmark on Sunday. It looks like it's going to be Switzerland. Switzerland just went up 4-0. So gold medal game on Sunday.
Gets me freaking fired up, man.
Got some mammoth representation on Team USA, captained by Clayton Keller. So that's huge.
Love it.
Talked about that last segment. In case you missed it, you can go find it on the podcast page. As far as what we got going on today, Alex, we've got Real Salt Lake versus Vancouver, home. America First Field, 7:30 first kick, 6:30 pre-match. I saw a stat. RSL has already lost more games this season than they did all of last year.
I knew you were going to bring that up.
Well, I had to.
It is true. Not the best of starts to the year for Real Salt Lake. They're taking on one of the best teams, if not the best team in Major League Soccer right now, in the Vancouver Whitecaps. I don't expect it to go much differently. I mean, they just played 3 weeks ago, and I don't anticipate it to go much differently than it did last time. The speed in which Vancouver attacks is very, very good. They've got some crazy athletes running in behind the defense, and that's what really hurt Real Salt Lake last game. I almost anticipate something similar.
What was it, 2-1?
It was 2-1, yeah. It was 2-1, and honestly, it was
but it felt
a late.
More than that.
It felt more than that, and honestly, it was a late penalty from Diego Luna to get the one in like the 92nd minute or something like that. It was late in the game, and so it was a game that was honestly dominated by Vancouver, even with Vancouver not playing their star players.
Diego Luna just called up to the U.S. men's national team training. What do they call it? Training camp?
Training camp, yeah.
When is that in effect right now?
No, he'll still be available tonight.
Okay.
That one...
it starts in June, right?
Yes. Starts up here in a couple of weeks, so obviously Diego Luna will be expected to miss some time. And honestly, there's a Gold Cup coming up this summer with, and I anticipate that Diego Luna will be on that roster. I would be very shocked if Diego Luna is not at the Gold Cup with the men's national team.
Okay.
So it's going to be a summer where Real Salt Lake are going to have to figure out how to win without Diego Luna.
I don't think they figured out how to win even with Diego Luna.
That's where we're at.
So yeah, figuring out how to win without your best player when you can't win even with your best player is
Real Salt Lake they have a lot of questions to answer, man, and it's going to start here coming up in so the players report June 1st. Real Salt Lake does have a bye week on June 7th, so they don't have to worry about him missing too much time. But then you look at the summer with the Gold Cup. That's a month-long tournament.
Yeah.
I anticipate the U.S. men's national team to make it to the championship game in that competition.
Who all is in the Gold Cup?
It's all the teams in North America and Central America.
Okay.
And so, again, I anticipate them to make it far. And so, I like I said, I think Real Salt Lake are going to go a month or more without Diego Luna. Whew. Yeah.
Go see him while you can.
I'd be shocked if he's not on that roster.
Go see him while you can.
Yep.
Big game tonight at America First Field. Again, if you don't have plans, I would definitely recommend going out there. I love going to Real games. I love the stadium. I love the environment there. Even when they're struggling to pile up wins, I think the games are really fun to watch. And you know what, to be honest, Alex, it's not like they've been getting their butts kicked every game, right? Like all these games are close.
They are close. It's just the lack of goal scoring, man.
Yeah.
The lack of goal scoring. When you don't score goals that push pressure on your defense to defend better.
Yeah.
You give the other team one opportunity, they take advantage of it, you're down 1-0, all the pressure's on your defense. And that's kind of been the story of the season so far for Real Salt Lake.
Go watch a Memorial Day game at America First Field. Again, 7:30 first kick, 6:30 pre-match here on the Zone. And then on the other signal on 1280, we're going to have the Bees versus Omaha there. So check that out for the Salt Lake Bees. That is at 6:30. No pre-game show for the Bees there. I always forget what it's called.
The on-deck circle. There you go.
Just came to me. 6:30 straight up for the Bees.
Yeah, there you go.
On 1280. So, again, thanks for listening. Be safe. Enjoy your Memorial Day plans. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.